Hello everyone, I'm Zoltan the Gamer Man, and today I'm going to give you my honest thoughts on The Last of Us Part 1 Remake. Now I'm going to talk about the quotation marks a little bit further on, but first I'm going to tell you wonderful people about how this game looks, how it sounds, a bit about its story, and of course how it felt revisiting the world of the original Last of Us game made new but still familiar with more than a few bells and whistles. So let's get right into it. From the very first time that I laid my eyes on The Last of Us Part 1's announcement trailer, I was just blown away by how absolutely amazing it looks, and I just couldn't wait to get my grubby little hands on it and re-experience the world and the story with cutting-edge graphics. I mean, if these views and character models and facial animations don't make you go, wow, then I truly believe that you should make an appointment with the ophthalmologist because this game just looks absolutely drop-dead gorgeous. The devs say that the game has been
remade from the ground up,
revamped, completely elevated in every way possible.
And that shows, at least graphically. I mean, I recently replayed The Last of Us Remastered on my Twitch channel, Zoltan the Gamer Man, and I have to say, the jump in graphical quality is just so impeccably clear that even Matt Murdock would agree. The game just looked so damn good, but at the same time, after also having recently replayed The Last of Us Part 2, it also looked familiar because the graphical jump between the two games is not that noticeable, and I'm not saying this to put down The Last of Us Part 1's graphics. I am only saying it to emphasize what an absolutely bang-up job Naughty Dog did with The Last of Us Part 2, which is also a graphical fucking masterpiece. And they came back and did it all again with The Last of Us Part 1. I mean, just everything looks absolutely stunning, superb, and spectacular. For example, when Joel goes indoors from the rain and chokes out an enemy as they struggle and try to escape and hit his clothing in the process, actual drops of rain fly from his clothing. It's just awesome. Oh, and in the cutscenes when the characters talk to each other and they shout or say something very angrily, actual saliva will spray from their mouths. I mean, the developers had all the chances in the world to incorporate the phrase, say it, don't spray it, in any of the conversations between the characters, but did they? Anyway, The Last of Us Part 1 is a game driven by narrative, and the narrative itself is driven by the characters, and the way that the facial animations show each and every emotion just impeccably on the characters' faces in all of the cutscenes is just superb, and it elevated the experience to a whole new level. And if the story wasn't heart-wrenching enough for you in the original or the remastered version, well,
wait till they get a load of me.
Anyway, all in all, graphics are good. Now let's move on to sound.
All in handcuffs.
Did you see that? It's great. I mean, if you've played The Last of Us Part 1 original or remastered version, then you know what to expect from the characters and the voice actors. Now, nothing was rewritten or re-recorded for the remake because it was absolutely wonderful the first time around. And you know that old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Going from that saying, the question can also be asked, why remake a 9-year-old game that still kind of holds up graphically and definitely holds up story-wise and gameplay-wise? Yeah, but that's not for me to answer, is it? Anyway, sound is great overall. And now let's take it over to the story. In the world of The Last of Us Part 1, the globe has been ravaged and ripped apart by the cordyceps virus, which is a type of fungal virus that infects the brain of everybody it comes into contact with and turns them into mindless, droning zombies who, in turn, want to infect any and everybody that they come into contact with, mostly by scratching, biting, hurting, maiming, and, you know, that kind of stuff. Typical zombie shit. Now in this wonderfully cheery and happy post-apocalypse, you play as Joel, a very rugged, very Texan, very badass guy who has lost everything and who gets a seemingly impossible task: to escort Ellie, a 14-year-old girl who, get this, is immune to the cordyceps virus, and take her a few states over to a medical facility where hopefully the last brilliant minds and also the last beacon of hope for humanity can develop a cure for this goddamn stupid fucking infection. Now, the two see each other at first as no more than a burden, and their attitude towards each other is very, very chilly. However, the story is driven by the relationship and the way that it evolves along the course of their journey. And I have to say, it is just one of the most wonderfully written and executed stories out there. And now, let's move on to gameplay. Granted, the original Last of Us didn't have the most advanced or most compelling gameplay mechanics ever. Melee combat is almost as simple as it gets. Gun combat is also pretty straightforward, however, there is good weapon variety there. And in the game, you're either solving puzzles to get from one bit to the other, running for your life, being chased by nasty infected or human enemies that want to
kill you and eat your eyes for jujubes.
Or you're in somewhat larger areas surrounded by enemies, trying to sneak around and take them out one by one so as not to trigger a bloody gunfight, or not to be ravaged and torn apart by those bloody infected. Everything is pretty simple. You have your basic melee weapons that you can upgrade, you have your big guns, you have your handguns, you have your throwables, and that's kind of it. And I honestly welcomed this simplicity because even though the number of enemies could sometimes be overwhelming for me, I always know what weapons to choose and what throwables to throw in order to be able to circumvent them effectively and just take them out. Now, the developers also said that they massively, and I mean superbly, improved the AI from the original and remastered games for both your companions and the enemies. And I guess this is my biggest, if not the only, problem that I have with The Last of Us Part 1. What I really loved about it, though, were the quality of life improvements that the developers took over from The Last of Us Part 2. For example, the safe cracking mechanic that allows Joel to now crack saves even if he doesn't know the combinations to them, the option to now quick craft certain items that you have the ingredients for, the very cool visualization of how Joel improves his weapons on the crafting tables, and the overall more slick and refined and, in my opinion, better UI brought over from The Last of Us Part 2. And other than that, I mean, apart from the much improved movement and combat animations and the near impeccable facial animations, and let's not forget the spit here, you'll be very, very familiar with everything if you've already played the remastered or the original versions, and it will not be hard to get used to at all if you haven't. In conclusion, gameplay is simple and easy to learn, but at the same time it offers great variety in the way that you can approach each and every encounter. For me, it was
absolutely fantastic.
Now, since I played and finished the game on stream, I don't know exactly what that is in weekend terms. However, I have this handy dandy weekend time converter here, and I'll just add the numbers and... Oh, wait a second, it's the same length as the original, and I finished that in about a weekend. So, it takes about a weekend. That is if you play hardcore, like I did. If you play at a more leisurely pace, then the time can be extended to at most 2 weekends. As I've already said, The Last of Us and its world will always occupy a special place in my heart, thanks to its amazing story, great characters, and of course, the meticulous attention to detail that the developers put into it. It truly is one of the best stories that you can experience out there, and I urge each and every one of you who hasn't tried it yet to give yourself a treat and get lost in the world, much like I and many, many others did. I agree with the developers when they said that this is the definitive way of experiencing The Last of Us Part 1 for newcomers. Now, if you've already played the game, then I suggest waiting for a discount on the game and not paying the full $70 price tag, because it is essentially the same game with updated graphics. And that is why at the beginning and throughout the video I have been using the quotation marks when talking about why I consider The Last of Us Part 1 Remake to not be a full remake, but rather a remaster with a few bells, well, actually more than a few bells and whistles. Graphically, yes, it is a massive improvement, and even the UI update and the quality of life improvements are all very, very welcome additions. However, none of the other features like the 3D audio, which may be because of my tone deafness or hardware limitations, I don't know, but even the AI, they just didn't seem that much improved over the original enough to be able to call that a full remake. It's just not. All that said, I still consider The Last of Us Part 1 to be an absolutely amazing game, and the series as a whole to be one of the best out there. So even though it isn't without its problems and glitches, especially AI-wise, in my book, The Last of Us Part 1 Remake deserves a great, big, resounding
9.5.
Alright, you beautiful people, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Let me know what you like or dislike about The Last of Us Part 1 or The Last of Us as a series. And please also remember to subscribe to my channel if you like my content and want more like it. I'm Zoltan the Gamer Man, and these were my honest thoughts on The Last of Us Part 1 Remake by Naughty Dog. Take care, be well, and as always, keep on gaming.